matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA096.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you.
Hello, Taylor. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. You getting all your festivities wrapped up for Thanksgiving, I take it?
Yep, they would be wrapped up by now. Yeah,
But
but I'm
actually, yeah,
sure
you
I'm
know what? Thanksgiving already
sure it went
happened. Never
fine.
mind.
I'm sure it
Never
went
mind.
fine.
It was great.
Yeah, it was great. Can't super exciting. Actually, it is pre-Thanksgiving when we're recording this, but my cousin had a baby this morning.
No
So
way.
yeah, super exciting. His name is Jackson. He's huge. He's 9 pounds, 12 ounces.
Holy
Um,
moly.
and yeah, just congratulations to Kelsey and Justin, and I'm super excited. So,
Congrats, Kelsey and Justin. Where do they
yeah,
live?
they live in Nebraska.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
Very cool.
yeah.
Yeah, that sounds, yeah, 9 pounds. That's a Nebraska baby. That sounds right.
It does sound like a good healthy American boy is nine
Yes.
pounds 12 ounces. Exactly.
Yes. Yeah, he's future linebacker for the Huskers.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
Sweet. Well, I think oh yeah, you're gonna introduce us.
I'm ready. Yeah. Welcome to Doomed to Fail. We bring you historical disasters and failures, and I am Taylor, joined by Fars. It is the season. We are in deep in the holidays and having a good time.
Tis the season.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you gonna do a season related topic for
No,
us
I didn't
or
even think about it. But I mean, maybe next time because it will still be the
the
season.
season? Yes. We're in the
I don't
seasons.
know, why not? This will be part of the season. Yeah, actually, well, I have one that I've been thinking about for a while, and I wanted to do like a series, but there's just so much, so I'm just kind of doing the highlights, and then maybe I will dig into more things a little bit deeper. But I'm going to tell you about Sidney Gottlieb and CIA mind control.
Ooh, is this MK Ultra stuff?
Yes.
Fun. That's a huge topic.
It's too much. I listened to obviously like the super old last podcast one, and then like it was essentially when they were doing book reports, and it was a book report on the book The Poisoner in Chief, which I did read.
Yep.
Also, so I have a little bit of that in my head, and then I just have some like highlights of what this man and his group did to, willing and unwilling participants in the name of science, quote, quote, quote.
Yeah.
Not great. It's not great.
I did
Um,
like it. I did like those days though, where the government would do insane things and then you'd find out about it like 100 years later.
I mean, we know
It's probably
so.
still happening.
Exactly. So a couple, yes, I'm sure. And then also that something really topical happened today that I'm going to get to kind of in the middle. And then also, oh, what was I going to say? Um, they destroyed like 95% of their stuff, like MKUltra. So you don't even
Yeah.
really know what they did. Like
Yeah.
this is the stuff that they like allowed us to know that they did, which is bad. And
Yeah.
then like, so the stuff that they really did is probably much, much worse.
Fun. I will tell you this. I know I have been I've known some it's weird. The Unabomber is how I know about MK Ultra the
Right.
most.
'Cause that's what I wanted to
Um
get into. I wanted to like roll it into the Unabomber and then Ted Kaczynski because he's so fascinating on his own. The whole thing. Yeah.
I'll be avenged. Yes. But I don't know the details because I've only been on the periphery of it, never went that deep into it. So this will be a very educational experience, I think.
I hope so. I hope so. So MK Ultra, which I'll talk about like what exactly that means and what that was, but essentially what the United States government, the CIA, was trying to do in like the 50s, 60s, and 70s was to find a way to do like real full mind control. Like take your brain, scramble it, turn you into someone else. Like remove all of your memories, remove everything that makes Fars Fars, and make Fars into a robot and have you do whatever we want you to do, essentially. You can't do that. At the end, they were like, yeah,
I know Manchurian Candidate was not a real story.
exactly. And that actually came out in the middle of this and made people even kind of more excited and more scared because they're like, maybe this could happen, that you could, train a soldier to like with a keyword. And I think I heard this later, but it's like Zoolander, you know, when you hear this song, you're gonna kill the Prime Minister of Malaysia.
Oh yeah.
It's exactly that. Like that's what they were trying to do, which they learned that you cannot do after all
Right.
this time that they tried.
Turns out
Um,
the human brain is more complicated than we
I mean,
thought.
you can certainly destroy a human brain, but you can't put something back in it.
Right.
Once you scramble those eggs, you can't unscramble them.
Exhibit A, Ted Kaczynski.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So you can't fix it. You can ruin it, but you can't fix it. Um, all of it, all of the stuff that they did, they ruined people's minds, they ruined people's lives. They did obviously like consult with and work with Nazis because we've talked about this before, like in like science and engineering, like technical engineering, like you brought over the rocket scientists from Germany because we wanted that they were like learning a lot of stuff. We wanted to know what they learned. And in these like human experiments, like I won't really get into it more than this, but like the stuff that the Nazis and the Japanese were doing to people in their like prisoners and in the concentration camps and stuff was like stuff that no one has ever done before or since because it was so bad. And a lot of it also was for nothing. Like when Mengele is trying to like sew a head on someone's shoulder, it's not for like
Yeah, what are you
that's,
going to learn from that?
that's not going to work. You know what I mean? But you also like that was the only time that people were able to like do it and write it down. Like
I
able
think,
to is means like they just like did it and whatever.
if I remember correctly, a lot of the hypothermia stuff, though, was helpful. Like, we wouldn't have known a lot about how the body reacts to it.
That's fair, but they did that with by like, freezing people.
I'm not saying it's good, I'm just
No,
saying.
exactly. No, I see. Yes, as it's interesting because some of those experiments like you shouldn't have been able to do, but they did
Right,
them anyway. So like, did we learn stuff? I guess you should learn that stuff.
right. You don't need to
Mo
sew three legs on a person.
Yeah, like
There's no
most
medical
of it was
value.
crap. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. But in the end, you can't do it. But let's start with Sidney Gottlieb. He's the person who was like the mastermind behind a lot of this, a lot of the like mind control programs. And I'm going to tell you about a couple specific programs that they did. But he's essentially always kind of been a little old man, even though of course he was young at one point, but he just like feels like a little old man. Um, if you are picturing him, just picture a little old man. I wrote, he's a little old man, but first he was a baby. He was born August 3rd, 1918, in New York City to Hungarian Jewish immigrants. He had a stutter and a club foot, which made him ineligible to fight in World War II. So some of these people who are, and I think this isn't exclusive to Gottlieb or to World War II. Like there are people who work in the government and work in like the CIA and like whatever these places that like physically could not work in like the army.
Right.
They still want to like serve their country. I did quotes and like do stuff. So that's what he did that. He was super smart. He's a scientist. He got a chemistry degrees from the University of Wisconsin and Caltech, and he joined the CIA in 1951. He was in the TSS, which is the technical service staff of the CIA. So his job is to figure out mind control and to make gadgets. So like that part's kind of fun. It's definitely gadgets like James Bond gadgets,
It's fun.
you know? Um, so they called his part of the CIA the gadget shop. So it included mind control poisons, drugs, gadgets, things like he really did make things like poison lipstick and like he experimented with different types of pills that like you could take with you when you were flying over enemy lines and if you crashed do you like what you have your fake tooth that you bite or whatever to like to die by suicide so you don't give anything away. They're the people who tried to like kill Castro with like the exploding cigar,
Ah, I remember this.
you know, or they tried to like poison Castro so that his beard would fall off so he'd be less powerful. Like
That is that is
like his
why I have a beard,
yeah,
actually.
if you didn't have it, like the one time you didn't have it, I felt like you were way less powerful.
And you were right to think that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like silly stuff like that. Um, but they had, I mean, basically, I feel like that image you have of like going into that like James Bond's gadget shop and then like or like Austin Powers, and they're showing you all those like funny things. Like that's it. That's really what we're looking at, you
Nice.
know?
That's fun.
Yeah. Like that part's kind of fun. I mean, they did try to kill a lot of people and did kill people with these things, so, like, whatever. But the idea of having like, a shoe with a knife in it, like that's fun.
That's so cool. It's a
Not mad at
special
that.
gadget.
Yeah. So in 1967, Gottlieb becomes head of the TSS, and this is when he becomes officially the poisoner in chief, is what they call him. And that's like the name of the book I read about as well. He's going to retire in 1973. And so the whole time that Sidney Gottlieb is traveling the world, learning about poisons, doing all these drugs, drugging all these people. He did the drugs himself a lot of the times, drugging all these people, trying to stage his assassination plots, doing all these things. Him and his wife live on like a farm outside of DC. They like barely have electricity. So in the morning, he'll like milk his goats and like tend to his crops and then go into DC and do all this like 1960s like spy shit.
It's a nice contrast, I think.
I know, it was kind of fun. So after he retires, they sell everything, him and his wife. They have 4 kids, but they sell all their stuff and they travel the world to try to like help people. So they work in like leper colonies and places in India like with extreme poverty and like try to help. But while they're there doing all these things like in their retirement, looking like a sweet little old couple trying to help people around the world. He gets called back to a congressional hearing in the mid 1970s because he does get in trouble. It is a little bit like you shouldn't have done that. The hearings, a lot of them, some of them were led by Senator Ted Kennedy when he was a senator, who also, is a smidge guilty of things himself.
Chepacquiddick.
Yeah, like
Chepacquiddick, something like
yeah,
that.
like Chappaquiddick.
Chappaquiddick.
I don't know if it's a Massachusetts town, then who the fuck knows how it's pronounced?
Do you remember that story about him after that woman died and he went back to his hotel room, like after crawling out of the car, and then he ended up calling the hotel and saying there's people playing loud music next door to get him to shut up. And I was like, that has to be the definition of privilege.
I
You
know.
just killed somebody.
You just killed someone. Anyway, we can talk about that later. We'll definitely probably get to that. Um, but he Gottlieb is going to, in these hearings, have a lot of I don't remember happening. I don't remember doing that. I don't remember what happened. I can't recall, So he doesn't really confess to anything. But the stuff that he did was compared to, the defenses that people said at Nuremberg. And, being like, this was for like the greater good and for what we were thinking we were doing, and I was following orders and things like that. Um, and also the stuff that he learned out of like the cruelty of it is very similar to the stuff that they were saying, after World War II as well. Eventually, the stuff that MK Ultra and Gottlieb had done were ruled immoral and unconstitutional. Which reminds me of the thing that happened this morning. Is this morning Dan Carlin released a new Common Sense, which he like very rarely does. It's his other podcast that besides Hardcore History,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is
I stopped checking Common Sense because it's like he goes years between releasing them.
absolutely. He did one this morning, and I listened to it while I was Thanksgiving shopping at the Walmart. Um, Essentially, he is mad, as we all should be, about the thing that happened this week where the president was like, well, the couple Democrats put out a thing that was like, if you are in the military and you're asked to do something illegal, don't do it, you know?
Oh yeah, I heard
And
about this.
and then the president said, well, them saying don't follow orders is like treason and they should be executed. So like everyone's just like,
In an uproar.
yes. But, there are plenty of times in American history when the people who did the thing that they weren't supposed to do, even if it was ordered for them, do get in trouble later, Like there's some terrible things that happen in Vietnam where like people like, these terrible mass killings and gang rapes and these terrible sexual assaults and awful things that they did over there, and they were like following orders, and when they got back, they got in trouble for it, because like you are not a robot. You are supposed to have your own moral compass and be like, I'm not doing that,
Were
which
those
is like
orders they followed, or were they just like rogue crazy people?
those were in like the Melee incident, which is so terrible, is one of the things that I like looked at to research, and it's too awful. Like I can't, it's too awful. But they like one person I think was like, let's do this, like had everybody do it, and then they just like kept doing it. Like they just like didn't. They were their orders. Everyone was doing it, I think. The
Okay.
people who didn't do it, who didn't participate in like the terrible assaults and all and murder and all of that, they got medals afterwards, and everybody else like got in trouble.
Because I remember in Full Metal Jacket, they were like just sniping people off the helicopter, but that wasn't like ordered to do that. That was just a crazy person.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, but like the bottom line is, if someone tells you to do something and you know it's morally wrong, you don't have to do it. And
Right.
you shouldn't do it. You should be able to. You are your own person. You are not a part of a machine. So, um, but Gottlieb's, answer was like, I don't remember doing a lot of these things and whatever, blah, 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 when like he very much did. And he very much gave the orders to do a lot of these things as well. He died at the age of 80. His cause of death is not disclosed by his family, but I mean, he probably died by suicide after everyone
Why?
kind of knew what he had done,
Uh,
like after the trials and
because
stuff.
80's pretty old. How long was it after the trial and then he killed himself?
Not that long. A couple
Okay.
years. Yeah, not that long.
All
Yeah.
right.
So okay, let's talk about some of the specifics that happened. So we're going to cover like a whole shit ton of time between like 1950 and 1970, just some of the absolute crazy shenanigans that the CIA was up to. So before Gottlieb got into his role in 1950, I don't know if you've heard of this. Have you heard of Operation Sea Spray, where the U.S. Navy poisoned San Francisco?
No.
So this is like the Wikipedia page for this is really small, and I do want to like dig in more because I think that this is just so wild. But in 1950, from September 20th to September 27th, the U.S. Navy from the San Francisco Bay sprayed San Francisco with two different types of bacteria to see how far it would go. And it wasn't meant to like kill people, but it was meant to be able to be traceable in the people to see if you could like mass poison an entire like port city. They didn't tell anyone in San Francisco they were doing it, including like the government. Like no one knew. So they just like parked their boats outside and sprayed bacteria into the city. They monitored it in 43 locations all over San Francisco Bay. They were able to track that nearly all of the 800,000 residents of San Francisco breathed in the bacteria. So they were able to be like, oh, we could totally poison an entire city and do it this way. One person died. He got like really bad pneumonia, and 11 people got really bad UTIs because it was like some sort of like bacteria that would do that. So like it didn't hurt a ton of people, but it hurt some people. And then some researchers think that later some of the reasons that infections from like intravenous drug use and things in San Francisco were worse than other places because these people had been exposed to that bacteria when they were kids in the 50s.
It's kind of like lead causing more serial killers kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, potentially, potentially. But they just went like, why don't we see if we can poison a city? Let's do San Francisco. And they just like went and did it. So that's wild. So right as Gottlieb is starting to work in the TSS, in like 1950,
Wait,
51,
Taylor, what if it made a bunch of really smart engineers though? Like, what if this was a good thing?
I feel like the engineers moved to San Francisco.
It had to start somewhere.
But
All
maybe
right,
that's how we got to where we are.
just a
We should
theory.
poison more people and see what happens.
There's poison more people, yes. That's
That's a
we're on the
good
same
idea.
page.
You said it first, so that sounds like a good idea. So one of the projects that started when Gottlieb started, he when he got into the TSS, it was already happening. It was Project Bluebird, which turned into being called Project Artichoke. They renamed it Project Artichoke in 1951 because it was Dulles' favorite food, which is weird. Like,
Weird.
yeah. And I know there's so much about Dulles that we should learn too, about all the shit that he did. But at Camp King, which was in West Germany and in some places in the United States, it was just the initial things like how can we kind of control what someone thinks or control what they say or like get information out of them. And they used like drugs, hypnosis, isolation, electric shock, just try to get people to either like confess things or to be able to like get them to just tell them things and have it like hidden in their brain. Um, and again, like just like the Manchurian Candidate and Zoolander, like we were saying, like the Manchurian Candidate was a movie that came out, but like it was a soldier who was programmed to kill someone with like a keyword. What word am I trying to say?
I don't remember what. Yeah, I don't remember the
But it's
details
like
of that. But
something
it was.
happens and he's supposed to kill someone and then not remember, just like be a totally different
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
So then there's nothing to confess because you don't remember doing it. And you can do it like whenever. So they're just able to like say something and you commit this murder that you don't remember, you never remember anything happened, and then you're able to like kind of get away, you know, is the idea.
Yes.
And so because the movie came out, which was a work of fiction, that also kind of escalated or like amplified the idea to the CIA and to the American public that like China and the USSR or the Soviet Union, they are already doing this, but they weren't. They couldn't do it either because you can't.
Right.
But we had this idea that they were doing it already, so that kind of amped up the way that we did it. Um, and then so Project Artichoke feeds into MK Ultra. So the MK of MK Ultra doesn't mean anything. It's just like a initials that mean this is part of the TSS, but they can't be like traced back to anything. It's just like an arbitrary initials. So
So is it its own separate program or is it an assortment of programs?
it's an assortment of programs. So they focus on different things. So Artichoke was kind of like a little bit of everything. So like drugs, hypnosis, whatever. So there's MK Ultra, which will I'll talk about some more things that's with drugs. There's also, once I talk about MK Ultra, I'll talk about MK Naomi, and that one is more like biological toxins and gadgets. So there's like synthetic drugs, like and like LSD is the MK Ultra, and then MK Naomi is more of like poison darts and gadgets, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's fun.
So there's a couple different projects. So MK Ultra basically is like, how can we do mind control with drugs? So LSD had been like discovered. It comes from like the ergot that they thought maybe that makes people crazy, like the
Yep.
things, and like it does do that, but it doesn't obviously doesn't create witches, which we learned in the Salem witch trials. But still, it's like a natural occurring thing, and they had like found it and synthesized it, and now they're trying to figure out how what to do with it and how to experiment it with it. So Gottlieb himself was like one of the first people to start taking LSD to see what would happen. So there's like notebooks of his where he's like, things are fine. Then he's like, I see things. I feel really excited and like really lightheaded and like whatever. So he's like going through this like acid trip and like writing it down. So he did a lot of it. Like, he did take a lot of it, but I think, he liked it,
Yeah, of course.
you know. Um, it reminded me, my husband used to work at a cannabis company in California, and they had like a meeting. He wasn't in the meeting, but his friends were, where they were like taste testing like 10 different vape pens. And like, I'm like, you can't take taste test 10 different
Yes.
weed pens. It's like the first one, the notes were like, ooh, it's mellow. By like number 10, they were like, brownies.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just like,
Someone do a food run, Taco Bell's
yeah.
open.
They were like, one guy was taking a nap. Like, how are you supposed to do that? But he was doing a lot of that. But Gottlieb did hundreds of experiments with LSD. Sometimes people knew that they were being drugged, sometimes they didn't. So they would say, like, sign up and try it and, kind of write down what happens and see what happens. Or they would do things like at the holiday party, they put LSD in the punch because they wanted to see if it made the secretaries more flirty.
That's kind of nuts.
Yeah. And again, like Gottlieb did the drugs himself. There are reports that like he would just like get really high on LSD and sleep with everybody's wives because they were all high on LSD. So just
Wow.
like having these like, just like the LSD parties you imagine hippies having, because that's what it turns into.
Right.
Like once it gets out into the world, and then there's things that like I think as Clark Gable started taking like microdosing, and he like felt much better. So like it's like it gets out quickly from
Sure.
this. Um, so they would drug children in mental hospitals. They would put LSD in their cereal to see what would happen to them. They would drug people in jails because they're like both children and people in jail are not willing participants in these experiments.
I
Um,
mean, that's probably not the worst thing they could have done to them.
no, I mean
They could
it's
have
not,
deprived them of LSD.
but no, it's bad. So did we talk about Whitey Bulger recently?
Probably.
So he's like that mobster guy, but when he was in jail, they drugged him with LSD
Oh
every
my
day
God,
straight
you're
for like 140
right.
days. Yeah.
Wait, so I think he was part of MKUltra.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he absolutely was. So like they would drug him with like a high dose of LSD every day for like over 100 days. Like
Probably
that's not
didn't
good.
help him.
You're gonna go crazy. Like that's like, and they put you in isolation and they do all these things and they like are like watching you like you're in a cage. So it's not like you get like one fun trip. It's like they're drugging you every single day and
Yeah,
leaving
yeah.
you in like a room with like no light. Um, they also tried to like, give LSD to Castro to like do it while he was in like doing a they didn't do this, but the plan was to do it while he was doing a press conference to make him look crazy. You know?
I like how their answer to every problem was LSD.
It really is. It really is. It's like throw LSD and see what happens. They like have this idea that isn't true, and they could have figured out wasn't true much earlier. That LSD was the thing to be able to like wipe your mind, implant it with something, and then, be able to do a thing, even though it wasn't. So they one thing that they did that was particularly awful is to a CIA employee named Frank Olson. So Frank Olson was a scientist. He worked in the Army and in the CIA, and he worked at Fort Detrick in like in experiments and like just like in like their like in like the lab there. And it was a place where there was, and I mean, we're not going to get into this, but there's a lot of animal testing going on.
Ugh.
Like we're talking about the humans, but like the amount of animals that were killed during this is incomprehensible. And Frank Olson is like, seems like a good guy. He's like a calm, sensitive man, and this is starting to like rub on him. Obviously, like this is bad. His son says about his dad, his son says, quote, he'd come to work in the morning and see piles of dead monkeys. That messes with you. He wasn't the right guy for that. So Frank Olson's like already upset.
No, I would have gone ballistic.
Yeah. So he's like, I'm a scientist, but I cannot handle this. And, he saw humans tortured with these drugs, with hypnosis. Like there's a whole subplot of like they had a magician come in and try to hypnotize
It's
people and like
ridiculous.
all this other stuff. But so Frank is kind of like starting to feel like this is not for me. I don't love this, but he's really, really high up in MK Ultra and in this. So in 1951, there was a village in France that was actually really poisoned by ergot poisoning. So he was like one of the handful of people who visited that place to see like what happens there. So he was like really, really high up. There aren't a lot of people who know. It's like less than 20 people really know what they're doing, and Frank Olson is one of them. But he's starting to kind of not be able to handle it. So in on November 18th, 1953, they have a retreat. So they have like a little cabin retreat a couple times a year for all the guys that are in like high up in this project. They get together, sit in a cabin, and they do drugs, basically. And at this party, there are 8 guys from Fort Detrick, 8 scientists, and 4 scientists from the CIA, including Sidney Gottlieb. And the second night, they're having dinner, and Gottlieb is like, surprise, there was a ton of drugs in dinner. You've all been super drugged. Like, let's see what happens. And like they kind of maybe should have expected it, but like they didn't know they were going to be drugged like to this extent, to this level on day 2. They said you've been drugged with a truth serum, but like it was definitely LSD. And Frank was not okay. He was very, very, very upset. And he was one of the again the few people who knew all sorts of things, all of these secrets. And when he got home a couple of days later, he was still very jittery, like very upset, very confused. And he said to his wife, quote, I've made a terrible mistake. And we don't know what he meant by that, and we don't know what Frank's mistake was. Did he did they do like a fake interrogation and he like spilled the beans immediately? Did he realize
Wait, spill what beans?
like that like someone like pretended to like did someone like pretend to kidnap him and be like tell me about MK Ultra and he did,
Oh,
because like
oh,
not supposed to.
right, right.
He's supposed to be like totally close-lipped about all of this. Did he realize how fucked up this was once he was drugged by accident, and be like, this is
Yeah.
the last thing? So he was basically like losing his mind. So that was like November 22nd, he gets home. So on November 24th, so less like a week later after he goes on this trip, he tries to resign. And he tells his wife, he says, I tried to quit. They wouldn't let me leave, but they want to take me to psychiatric treatment because they're afraid that I might hurt you because I am feeling so messed up right now. So his wife is like, okay, like it's Thanksgiving, like, okay, like go. And he leaves and he says, like, I'll be back. I'm going to go away for like a week, get some help, and then I'll be able to come back to the family. They don't take him to treatment. A couple of big CIA guys take him to New York City and they like hang out. They go to the theater, they like go out to dinner, they just like kind of like do stuff. And on November 28th, again, this is 1953, Frank Olson falls from the 10th floor of the Statler Hotel in New York City, which is now the Hotel Pennsylvania. He was sharing a room with another agent at that time. When the police get there, again, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, they find the other guy just sitting in the bathroom, just like using the bathroom and being like, oh, hey, what's going on? Like he didn't notice that Frank was gone. And then they know from an operator who connected a call right after Frank fell, before the police got there, that the other guy called someone else who we think is Gottlieb and said, well, he's gone. Another person said, well, that's too bad. And that was it. Um, Later, okay, so like the way that Frank Olson jumped out this window, this is what the night manager said about this. He said, quote, in all my years in the hotel business, I never encountered a case where someone got up in the middle of the night, ran across a dark room in his underwear, avoiding two beds, and dove through a closed window with the shade of curtains drawn. So for him to have died by suicide, he would have had to take a running start from one side of the room, go through the curtains and through the window, which seems really hard,
Yeah.
right? But the window was shattered and and he had like those kind of wounds on him when they found him on the ground. So they were like, "Oh, he died by suicide," but it feels very, very suspicious, right?
Yeah, of course.
So his
My first
family,
thought before you said anything was say killed him.
of course. So his family is like, no, and they sued and they sued for years. Like they didn't get any resolutions until like the 2010s. But in the 1990s, they did exhume Frank's body and they did find that he was probably hit on the head first and then thrown out the window.
Yeah.
Which
Or
makes
dose
sense.
him with more LSD. That seemed to work.
I mean, if I'm gonna throw you out the window, I'm gonna open the window first. But what do I
But
know?
you can't open the window.
What do you mean?
Was the window openable?
Oh, I mean, I feel like probably because it was 1953. I don't know. You're right that you can't open hotel windows now, but like, I wonder when that became a rule.
But then it would make more sense if you're going to kill him by throwing him out the window that you'd open the window. Because then it makes it more compelling that he killed himself.
That's what
Why
I'm
would you
saying.
throw him through the window?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
If I
Okay,
was
we're
gonna
on the
throw you out the
same
window,
page.
I would open the window first and then
Sure.
throw you out the
Right.
window. I'm not gonna
Right.
add to my stuff to do to try to break the window with your body.
Right. Right. That
That
seems
seems really
harder
hard.
to do.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, poor Frick Olson's family, who had to like live with that for ever. Just
Yeah.
like a week that ruined his life. So those are some MK Ultra things. There's also MK Naomi, named after one of the secretaries named Naomi. This one was more like biological agents. So the darts, which we also learned in our episode about Greek fire, how people have been poisoning darts forever. You know, you
Yeah.
can like
Got
rub
to.
the end of a dart on like a poison frog or like a snake or something, and make sure that you like really, really kill people. They had darts that were specifically made to like not kill dogs, but like make dogs like pass out because like if a dog if like someone's coming at you with a dog, you know?
Yeah. You got to slow him down somehow.
So I learned also this week another side quest. My daughter is whatever books she reads in school, I try to read too, so I can talk to her about them, right? And she's reading a book next called Number the Stars by Lois Lowry, who wrote The Giver. I don't know if you read The Giver.
Yes.
So I remember reading Number of the Stars when I was Florence's age, and it is about a family who has to help hide their neighbors who are Jewish. During the Dutch resistance during World War II. I remember reading it and feeling like, I hope if the time comes, I'm brave enough to hide my friends in my attic. I'm really excited they're reading it now. I cried the entire time, like reading it. And I texted her teacher. I was like, I cried. Like, I'm happy you're reading this because it's really important to know. But an interesting, like, fun scientific fact that I learned in Number of the Stars that is true is that what they did in the book is they're trying to, hide people in the bottom of a boat and get them to Sweden to safety. But the Gestapo comes and they have dogs to like sniff for the people. So what they would do in the Dutch resistance is they had handkerchiefs. So you couldn't tell anything was wrong with the handkerchief if you were looking at it, but the handkerchief was doused in rabbit's blood and cocaine, which made any dog who sniffed it lose its sense of smell.
Seriously?
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Wait,
So then
is that real or fiction?
that's real. So that was in the fiction story, but it's a real thing that happened. I looked it up because I was like, what was on the handkerchief? Like, what is it? So it would like numb the dog's like nasal passages enough. So the dog would like, you'd be like, I don't have anything to hide. And you'd like open up your bag and the dog would go through your bag and you'd have a handkerchief in there and the dog would smell it like it would. And then then they'd be like, oh, now the dog has to go check the boat. And the dog would go check the boat and it wouldn't smell anybody else because it lost its sense of smell.
That's
Isn't that cool?
wild.
I know. So.
What a night that is. You got to go source and kill a rabbit and then go to your bookkeeper. That is a
I gotta
rough
talk to
night.
two different guys for that. I gotta talk to my rabbit guy,
Yeah, yeah, you
talk
can't go
to
to
my
the same
cocaine
guy for
guy.
that.
Yeah, isn't that cool? I don't know.
That's
So like
wild.
there's yeah, something to know. Um so they also worked with shellfish toxins and cobra venom and all of that stuff. And so this is something that like in the 1970s, everyone's like, all right, we need to calm down. We cannot continue to stare at each other with piles of bioweapons behind us. Like we have to we can't do this. Like this can't be something that we do. And there's things also that like, Gottlieb tried to like assassinate a dictator in Africa with poison and, all the Castro stuff. And then like later, Gerald Ford, he's going to be the one that um, says that we can't use assassination as something that we do as part of our like tactics in the United States. And Nixon, similarly, like before this, is going to say we need to destroy all of these bioweapons. So in 1970, Nixon orders all of them destroyed. But of course, they're not all destroyed. Don't be dumb. I wouldn't destroy everything if you told me to destroy my life's work.
Right.
Yeah. So the one thing that we found pretty quickly, but I'm sure there's still some shit out there. One CIA scientist kept 11 grams of shellfish toxin, enough to kill hundreds of people, in a lab refrigerator, just kind of like hid it in the back of the refrigerator, and it was found 5 years later in 1975. So I'm sure there's plenty of like old ass places where these things still exist.
Yeah, of
You know,
course. Yeah, all that LSD didn't just disappear. It got
right? It's all
distributed in
there.
San Francisco.
Yeah, exactly. So one more thing that they did also in San Francisco. So again, there's so much more that they did, but this is some of the highlights is they did another one called Operation Midnight Climax, which is like the perviest name ever and exactly what you think it would be. It was a way to see if both after having sex and after being drugged, if you're more likely to like give up secrets, which I feel like, yeah, probably.
Yeah, I
You
would
know,
assume, yeah.
like especially they would do things like lure men to these safe houses in New York City and in San Francisco. They had them like dressed, I feel like the vibe is like opium den
No,
cool,
of course, yeah.
and they would bring them there and like, they discover things that like, I don't know, feel pretty obvious, but like if the sex worker stays with you longer after you're done, then you're gonna tell her things
Sure.
because you're gonna think that she likes you,
This all tracks.
yeah. But they would do that, but they would also like dose everyone with LSD in this. So like hundreds of people were dosed. They did it for over 10 years and they didn't learn anything. They didn't use any scientific method. There was no control group, nothing. They would just like go ahead and do this. They would watch through like two-way windows and listen through like microwave microphones that were like in like the outlets and stuff. So just like they're just like really being pervs, hence the pervy name Midnight Climax.
How many tons of LSD was being produced in this time period?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know how much LSD is the right amount to. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's something that I don't feel like I don't have that graph that like this much LSD you like really like techno music and this much
But
LSD
I feel
you
like
jump
this
out of a
20-year
building.
period, we probably produced more LSD in that 20-year period than any time after combined.
I think that's probably true.
Because every story is like just LSD dosed.
And they were really, 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 really trying to make it work.
I know, it's like when they were trying to make fetch work.
Yeah, you're like, I bought a lot of this. We have to make it
We
work.
gotta make it work.
Like if I bought too much turkey. We're all eating turkey for the next 6 months.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know.
they just kept going to the Costco of LSD.
Exactly, exactly. And taxpayers paid for it, and we didn't learn anything, and a lot of people's lives were ruined.
But now San Francisco is like super groovy.
And the good news is we learned our lesson, and now you can totally trust the government.
They can totally trust everything.
So all is well.
Um,
Happy
do,
Thanksgiving, America.
do you remember that one last podcast episode about Timothy McVeigh where he was in the cell next to Ted Kaczynski, and apparently Ted Kaczynski like told somebody that he didn't like Timothy McVeigh because he was too liberal minded.
Poor Ted Kaczynski. Honestly,
I
I do
think
think we'll talk about him eventually, but I mean, if you don't know what we're talking about, he was definitely part of MKUltra when he was at Harvard. 'Cause also, I didn't even mention they did this at a ton of like universities, and like they started naming them in a list in the book, and the list is like 3 pages long. It's like hundreds of universities to like college kids, and Ted Kaczynski obviously was one of them, and that messed with him, and he also the uni in Unabomber means university because he was mad at universities. I don't feel like you
no,
knew that right away.
it's university and airline.
But that doesn't spell uni.
No, it's UNA. It's not uni.
Oh, okay. I'm back. I'm back on board. University and airline.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah.
Fun
Yep,
times.
that's it. That's my story. Fun times. Please cover your drinks. I feel like I used to in New York City, obviously like in a feels like a simpler time, but I would like smoke cigarettes and go to bars. And then like first for a while you could smoke cigarettes in bars, which is literally the
Is that
best.
wild?
You come home, you smell disgusting. It's great. Super fun. We used to like take off all our clothes in the kitchen when we lived in Italy and then hang them outside at night so they could get rid of the smoke. Great. But then after they began smoking in bars, you had to go outside, and some bars had like a coaster that you would put over your drink that said, "I'm outside smoking BRB."
Is that wild?
I cannot believe that I was not murdered. Like, that's absolutely insane. Please cover your drinks. Buy the little strips so you can see if your drinks are drugged. Like, do all those things. Be careful.
There's stories. So I okay, as even as a man, like I would never leave my drink unattended because now
Oh,
there's stories of people in Austin where men will go out drinking and then some girl will be like, "Hey, come back to my place," and then the guy just wakes up the next
hmm.
day with all of his like his wallet and phone and everything and his
Or
keys
he
missing.
doesn't wake up. He's like those guys in the river in
Or
Austin.
is that or one of those guys.
I know. I think one of my guy friends, I think we think that he picked up a drink that belonged to a woman and they like switched drinks and he didn't know. And he absolutely was drugged. And it was terrible. My sister was drugged at a club one time. Um, it was terrible. It's terrible. Be careful.
Yeah,
Cover your drinks. Don't trust anyone.
definitely def
Buy test strips. If someone in the government invites you over for dinner and you get there and there's a
test
disco
the
ball
food.
and everything's
Yeah.
covered in velvet, I think
If
you
it
should
looks
leave.
if it looks like an opium den, then that's your sign
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
out of
It's like
there.
if you get in there and it's like you and seven CIA men and they're all winking at you, I think you should go home. Not to victim
Uh,
blame. We just now that we know, now you know, don't do that.
very
Be
funny.
careful. Yeah. Yeah. That's
Um, well, thanks for sharing, Taylor. Do we have any stories or not
it.
stories?
No, I have no stories.
Letters?
I got nothing new. No.
All right.
I'm done. But please, 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 please tell your friends. I feel like we forgot to tell people to do that. Please do that. For Christmas, tell your friends. For us. You
Write
don't
us
have to
in.
buy us anything. Stop sending us gifts. Just tell your friends.
We get so many gifts, guys. You really got to stop sending us
Yeah.
gifts.
Stop sending gifts. Just tell your friends.
But write to us. Write to us at doingitallpod@gmail.com. Tell us your thoughts, and we would love to hear them and then read them out on the air.
We would.
Sweet.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and cut off there. Thank you, Taylor.
Thanks.